Fleischer and also MSNBC political analyst Pat Buchanan. Ari Fleischer, great to see you here. Same with you, Pat Buchanan. Ari, this is an interesting campaign. This morning we've got the Wall Street Journal bashing John McCain, saying that Al Gore is being channeled through John McCain. When you talk about these government bailouts, you see the massive debt that this country's carrying. You look at the chaos on Wall Street. Why should America give Republicans 4 more years, especially if McCain's talking like Al Gore?
Well, one, I'm no Hank Paulson, so I don't have the financial expertise, but I don't like it. I don't like this bailout. You know, where are we going to go with all this? Detroit gets bailed out. Did we bail out the dot-coms in the late 90s when they all went bust? That's not what the government's job is supposed to be, to bail out everybody who makes bad investment decisions and has to go bankrupt. And this only leads to more bad investment decisions because people know that there's a floor underneath them provided by you and me and other taxpayers. So I don't like what I'm hearing initially. Of course, the markets love it. Everybody wants a bailout. AIG is my insurance company, and I didn't want them to get bailed out either.
You know, Pat Buchanan, Ari's exactly right. You've got a lot of people on Wall Street that made a lot of bad investments, a lot of greedy people that are going to be bailed out. And let me read you what the Wall Street Journal said this morning about John McCain. In a crisis, voters want steady, calm leadership, not easy, misleading answers that will do nothing to help. Mr. McCain is sounding like a candidate searching for a political foil rather than a general solution. He'll never beat Mr. Obama, like running as an angry populist like Al Gore circa 2000. And Ari's right. He wants to bail out Wall Street. He wants to bail out Detroit. He wants to bail out every industry that made bad choices over the past 10, 20 years. Why should working class Americans do that?
Well, working class Americans probably shouldn't, Joe, but I think the Wall Street Journal was after McCain because he called for the firing of Chris Cox of the SEC, and the Wall Street Journal said he was wrong on his facts as well. But there's no doubt McCain is moving in a populist direction because he was caught flat-footed Monday saying the fundamentals are sound, and to be quite frank, Obama has stepped in and said, this is your philosophy, your ideology. You guys have followed it. We got a disaster on our hands. We need new leadership, more concerned about the average American.
But Pat Buchanan, as Pete Hamill said, that was his position on Monday, but it wasn't his position on Tuesday.
Well, McCain became a born-again populist because that's the only thing he could do, bashing Wall Street and all the rest. And quite frankly, he's correct. But I'll tell you what's coming, Joe. It's the biggest bailout of all time. You see in the headlines today, remember the old Resolution Trust Corporation? They're going to put together a pot of $500 billion or $1 trillion. They're going to buy all this garbage paper on the books of these banks, and they're going to then sell it off, and the taxpayers are going to take the loss. And the reason they're doing it is if General Motors goes under, you know, the United Auto Workers goes under. But if some of these banks go under, they'll draw down the entire financial system. And a lot of folks in smaller banks who've got their money in there will be wiped out.
Yeah, you know,
so this is a crisis. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say to Ari Fleischer, yeah, we might be wiped out because people are not behaving in a conservative way. Ari Fleischer, you and I took the majority in 1994. In 95, 96, 97, we worked like hell to balance the budget, to be fiscally responsible, to do the right thing, to reform Washington. That's what we promised to do. What happened to the Republican Party?
Well, I think both parties have a habit of doing this. They get more interested in keeping their gavels than finding solutions. And it becomes just an issue of how do we do whatever we have to do to get us through the next election. That's why this is such a fascinating crisis in a political sense, is because people are searching for what is the right answer, and it really is crossing political lines. You have Republicans, a free market Republican administration, calling for a bailout. I'll be very interested to see where people end up on Capitol Hill. I know Leader Boehner of the minority Republicans in the House is for this. Let's see where everybody else comes out. But the whole thing still makes me uncomfortable because I think it's fundamentals. Yeah. What right do I have to ask my neighbors to pay for me to get out of whatever trouble I'm in? That's what it means when the government does something. They have to get their money from somewhere, and they get it from the taxpayers.
Pat?
Hey, but Joe, you know what's going on here is This is a default by the political system. Bush isn't handling this crisis. Cheney isn't handling this crisis. Reid says we don't know what to do. Nancy Pelosi says it's not our fault. Hank Paulson's running the show. Yeah. Bernanke's running the show. They're going to walk up and say, give us $1 trillion. Now, I think they're probably good guys, but this is a failure of the financial elite. And none of the political elite in this country knows what to do because Obama or McCain or Palin or Biden knows what a credit default swap is. This is the elites, of the financial elites. And as I say, this is a failure of the political democracy, of the political class of the country. And quite frankly, what is happening is capitalist pigs may just have destroyed an aspect of American capitalism.
My God, Buchanan sounds like the people he was paying in Chicago at the 68 Democratic Convention to throw Molotov cocktails. They are capitalist pigs.
Run to the sound of the guns. Hey, Pat, let me
mention something. If you got a guy, let's take a guy. Now, I lost a bundle in Lehman Brothers because it's a good bank. But take a guy that say he's got $10 or $20 or $30,000 in his IRA, and he puts it in Lehman Brothers, a 158-year-old bank. It's solid, and he buys some stock in that thing. This guy's wiped out. He's gone. He didn't do anything wrong. He's a middle American guy who took the most conservative stance he could and saved his money. And that's why I think you're going to get the bailout, because if you don't, all these innocent people are going down in the ship with the same jackass who didn't look out for the iceberg.
Exactly.
Pat, let me ask you, and Ari as well. Yesterday, the President of the United States stepped up and addressed the nation in probably a 2-minute little commentary. He looked like he was a park ranger with the background, with the trees and everything like that, and he couldn't wait to get off the stage.
The tree's on fire.
Yeah. And
nothing to see here. Move along.
And a large part of this bailout that we're talking about right now this morning, it seems to me, who doesn't know a whole lot about the economy, but it seems to me it's largely dependent on foreign currencies being put into the American system once they get this new configuration put together, resolution trust, whatever it is. But what happens if the Chinese and the Saudis say, at this point in time, we're not buying any more of that bad debt from the United States because the system doesn't work? What happens then?
Here's what.
Well, let me make a couple points.
You're exactly.
Patty asked me the question, not you. Let me make a couple points. Number one, as far as President Bush and his generals out there, if this is a financial war, the right thing to do is let the generals, who are the experts, Hank Paulson, etc., fight it. He appointed them for their knowledge, and they should be taking the lead. So I don't think there's anything wrong with the Secretary of Treasury handling a financial crisis. He wouldn't be doing what he's doing if the president didn't support the direction of it. As far as foreign money, etc., the issue is the United States is an attractive place to put money because people think their investments will grow. We want foreign money coming into this country. If it wasn't coming here and it went to France or somewhere else because they thought they could get a better return on investment, that would be an American problem. I have no problem with people investing in America because they have confidence in the system.
No, I know, Ari, but I mean, it might be now that
if it happens for that reason, that's fine.
All right, Mike, let me tell you you're exactly right of what's going to happen. What's going to happen is the U.S. government's going to have to issue bonds. They're going to have to borrow it from China and the rest. And the Chinese and the Japanese are going to say, wait a minute, we got so much of this paper. We don't know if the Americans are going to pay it back in the same value dollars or whether they're going to inflate their way out of it. Therefore, we want a much higher interest rate. This is how nations go bankrupt. The problem is when you put all this debt, which we're going to do, onto the national debt of the United States, suddenly the credit rating of the United States of America, AAA, in all of our history almost since Hamilton, starts declining. And the United States becomes just like one of these third world countries that defaults, where you see its currency going to hell in a handbasket. That is why gold shot up $84 in a single day, because people say America's a safe haven, but gold is even safer.
All right, Pat Buchanan, stay with us.
Ari, thank you.
Ari, thank you so much. Greatly appreciate you staying on with us.